It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
.06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Wednesday, so over the hump we go. Still looking for something to say when it's Tuesday. Haven't quite settled on anything yet.
Today's show is sponsored by Junebug Berry Muffins. Are they berries? Are they June bugs? Are they either? Taste it. Find out.
I think I'll let you try and you can get back to me.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave. Before I get into the topics for the day here, hello, Guernsey. Over in Guernsey, Wyoming, around Guernsey, there's a really big fire going, producing a lot of smoke. People who are east of Guernsey, oh, Lord, you're really in the thick of it. And also, up in the Campbell County area, there's been a pretty good fire there, and that went through some homes, some trailers, things like that as well. And there's other parts of Wyoming that it's really lightning, from what I understand. Some of these fires were started because we've got the occasional afternoon thunderstorm that'll build, but there's not a lot of wet in it. But there's lightning for sure, and it'll strike something, and the fire gets going, and it's a dry season right now. Now, Don Day's extended forecast is at 6:45, and at 7:45 he's with me live, and we've been talking about this for the past week. We got a few more days of really dry and warm weather, and then next week some tropical moisture comes up that hopefully gives us a little bit of relief, so I'll keep you up to date on that. Okay, so a couple of stories that caught my attention that were just odd, but I liked it. One, there's a local satire page in Wyoming that does really a great job. These are the people who put out a story a few years ago that Devil's Tower was actually the trunk of a very large tree. Yeah, it's just what's left of it after it was cut off somehow. And it kind of looks like it, doesn't it? They've come out with some really great stories. It's called Casper Planet. Well, sometimes any satire site can go, whoops, maybe that was a little much. A recent story by Casper Planet led to an official response from Wyoming Highway Patrol. Whoops. After some readers mistook the fictional story as truth. In the story, this was a Tuesday that they posted this, Casper Planet stated that a truck carrying a shipment of king cobras from a scientific research lab had overturned on Interstate 25 outside of Casper. So now there's snakes all over the highway. Emergency response team, including wildlife experts and snake handlers, were dispatched immediately, the story states. That's not what really happened. The story then goes on to announce that a portion of the highway had been closed off for public safety and to aid in recapturing the snakes. According to the story, the snakes were being transported to a facility in Montana where scientists plan to look into using their venom. The post generated, all sorts you can imagine. Later in the afternoon, Wyoming Highway Patrol released a statement on Facebook clearing up the confusion. Quote, "We would like to clarify that a commercial vehicle carrying cobras did not overturn on I-25. There is no danger to the public. I-25 is open." Casper Planet also made an update to the original story, poking fun at those who were confused. Quote, I have been gone for 3 minutes, and you actually are calling authorities about this? Don't look away. Back over here. We respect our authorities, and they have better things to do, Casper Planet wrote. This is not real. Nebraska, everybody. So roughly for hours, the original satirical story was published. Casper Planet followed up with a story making its satirical intentions clear, with a story that says Wyoming declares victory over imaginary king cobras on I-25. So that sometimes when writing satire, which I do, as you know, for this program, there's a little bit of danger in that because there are people who will take it seriously. First thing I do, whenever I see a headline that I think, wow, really? What happened? I check to see, is it a satirical website? Because if it says Casper Planet, as an example, and there's many others out there, okay. Don't take that seriously. Look at who it is. Now, on the other hand, I can forgive some people for taking things like this seriously. I don't consider them to be stupid because when you take a look at the news in the world today, it's so bizarre. This is why another satire site, which I think is currently the best out there, Babylon Bee, they've got everybody beat. Even my original favorite, Onion News, Babylon Bee tops it all. They put out a site called Not the Bee. That's the second Babylon Bee website. And Not the Bee, the purpose of it, is to publish stories that are so bizarre you would think they're fake, but they're actually real. Yeah, I'm glad they put that out there. In fact, I look at that site every single day and a lot of times gather news stories for you guys off of that website. Yeah, you'd look at it and think, I just can't believe it. Here's an example of a story. You would think it's fake. This is a Cowboy State Daily headline. Green River man charged for pulling gun on dumbass teen on his lawn. This is a classic case of get off my lawn. A Green River man is facing up to 10 years in prison on claims he pointed a loaded 9mm pistol at a teen who had parked a powered-off dirt bike on the grass in front of the man's home. Boyd Kettle, 70 years old. So here's an old guy with a gun and there's some teenager on his lawn, charged with aggravated assault. Kettle was not jailed, declined Monday to comment, and then it goes through exactly what happened blow by blow for the entire story. But as I read the whole thing, I thought, no, having grown up in Florida, I am a firm believer in old people retire and I've seen it. They have nothing better to do. And so they get mad at everybody who walks by because they need some kind of controversy. They need something to yell at. Keeps them going. It keeps the blood circulating. So when you see some teenager on their lawn, get off my lawn. All right. In the case of this Wyoming guy, let's go ahead and pull a gun. Morning, Chet. Chet and Yoder. With all that's going on, I believed it. Yeah, I get it. I understand why some people would look at that story and go, really? Is that true or not? That's why with a story like that, I go looking for, well, who wrote it? Oh, it's Casper Planet. Then don't believe it because Casper Planet wrote it. That's a satirical site, so don't believe what Casper Planet writes. They're satire. They don't write truth. The whole point is to get a laugh out of you. That's why I love the story they posted a few years back, again, about Devil's Tower. It's just a giant tree stump. In fact, we've dug underneath and found the root system. Wow, it goes really deep. You wouldn't believe it. And there were some people out there who actually believed that. Always check to see who wrote it first. And I understand if you get confused because, like Chet is saying, yeah, the news out there can get so weird. How do you know when it's true?
They say cows are bad for the environment because all they do is eat plants and fart. Just like vegans.
If it's happening in Wyoming, it's on Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods from K2 Radio. Join the conversation at 888-97-WOODS.
6:22 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Okay, so I've got a bit of a mystery solved here. A few days ago, I told you, I think it was last week actually, I told you about a wind turbine blade. This is Cheyenne area just west of Cheyenne, and there's one wind turbine where the blade is just sagging. So take a look at, three blades. Take the one that's pointing straight up, and it's just sagging down. You write your own jokes on that. And don't call this program trying to tell me the jokes on air. I have a dump button. I'll edit you. Okay, so the landfill might be next stop for that, but the mystery to me is, so what exactly happened to the blade? Well, again, another Cowboy State Daily article. I'm glad they have a reporter who went out there and took a look at it and called some people. It's pretty much shredded up. It was a lightning strike. It's a half-size, let's see, 130-foot-long blade. Looks like hundreds of hair, like rope, because it's a fiberglass reinforced material and so on. So a spokesperson for Black Hills Energy confirmed that the blade was damaged by a lightning strike July 17th, just west of Cheyenne. Wind farm jointly owned by Black Hills Energy and some utilities in South Dakota and in Wyoming. And, of course, they have to release a statement. With safety as our top priority in the area around the turbines has been secured, we are working to make the necessary repairs. Okay. Once repairs have been made, the turbine will return to service. As far as the blade, is basically the junk heap for the blade. And I'm looking at several pictures here that were taken from all around the thing. It looks like about a third of it was standing straight up and the rest of it just broken down. So I don't think this will be the first or last time we ever come across something like this. I mean, you got a bunch of wind turbines out in an area that's way out in the open. Something's going to get hit by lightning from time to time, and this can happen. Lightning damage, the story says, is the single largest cause of unplanned downtime for wind turbines. So now I'm going to read that again, because that's the Cowboy State Daily reporter writing this. Lightning damage is the single largest cause of unplanned downtime for wind turbines and most common insurance claim filed by wind farm owners. Many turbines have lightning protection and surges and so on to divert incoming electrical current, but of course, doesn't always work. And a lot can be damaged, not just the blades there. Well, again, makes sense. You put a bunch of turbines out in an open field, sticking up high like that, they're going to get struck by lightning. Just like when they build solar arrays in an area called Hail Alley. And some of the hail, for people who live out there, some of those hail balls can get pretty big size. So why would you put huge solar farms out there? I don't know. But they seem intent on doing that and also putting up big wind turbine farms in areas. Well, thunderstorms build in those areas. You're going to get struck by lightning. So I'll go back and read that again. Lightning damage is the single largest cause of unplanned downtime for wind turbines. So now we know what happened anyway. We can expect that to happen again, and we can expect more of the solar farms that are going to be built out in Hale Alley to be beaten to death, and until maybe one of these days these people learn their lessons, probably when the insurance companies have had enough and just can't insure these guys or keep jacking up their rates. Now, on that note, I let Ms. Mary know I sent a preliminary script, something we were talking about yesterday. I came up with an idea yesterday, sort of later in the show, just to write, because, I like writing funny little bits that we play on the program, and then getting together with people to perform them, and that just gets into our archives, which is massive, of fun satirical bits. So I imagine creating a restaurant chain. The restaurants would exist only where there are wind farms, usually in the middle of the wind farm. Now, the purpose is they only serve birds, especially rare birds. So you go into the restaurant, they're only open when the wind turbines are turning because they have to be clean, sustainable, right? Green. So if the wind is not blowing for any reason, no wind in general, too hot, too cold, whatever the reason is, the wind turbines are not turning, then they don't have any electricity. The entire restaurant is dark. But once the wind starts blowing, they have electricity. Now, that will kill a bird, as it does all the time, especially rare birds. Now, if you were to go out and kill a golden eagle and eat it, you're in trouble. That's an endangered bird. But if a wind turbine does it, that's okay. So you get a chance to eat golden eagle while you're there, as long as the wind is blowing. Because when the wind isn't blowing, for whatever reason, that means no electricity to cook the bird, and the blades are not turning to kill the bird in the first place. So I've written a preliminary script that Miss Mary and I will kick back and forth, and maybe a little bit of help from you guys. Still haven't named the restaurant yet. I got some good ideas, but I haven't named the restaurant yet. And these restaurants will open up all over America. It's very difficult to run them because they can only run when the wind is blowing, which means it's very difficult to schedule staff. And I hadn't even thought of the idea. So you guys are going to be working in a restaurant that's underneath a bunch of wind turbines, which are susceptible to lightning strikes. Thinking about it. Don't know if I want to add that. Might be a little bit too much, but okay. That's the satirical bit we're working on. Get that script written up. Figure out who's going to perform, who in the, who's going to play what character when I put it together. The sound effects are really going to be fun. Electricity sound effects as it winds down or comes back up. Sound of a bird being hit and screeching to the ground and then thwack when it hits. Oh, look, dinner. Coming up on some local news we got to take care of after a local news update on your weather forecast. A little bit of smoke in that forecast, especially local smoke because we have some local fires now. Then you and I get back into it. At 6:45, Don Day's got that extended forecast with more news on lack of rain for the next few days, warmer temperatures, and some more local smoke. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Sunday.
He's talking to himself in a padded room, and you could be the voice in his head. Join the conversation on Wake Up Wyoming, 866-97-WOODS.
6:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. I had got something else ready to go for this segment, but I'm going to pull it back and wait because people are responding to the last thing I said. So I'm working on a satirical bit. It'll take place in a restaurant, a fake restaurant. The idea is opening up a chain of restaurants that are under wind farms all over America. Now, because it's a green, sustainable restaurant, it will only run when the wind is blowing. Anytime the wind turbines stop, the restaurant will not have any electricity. Therefore, it'll be dark and not able to cook any food. The food for the restaurant will come from whatever bird kills happen. So fresh bird kills. And the only time you can legally eat endangered birds, because if an endangered bird is killed by a wind turbine, that's okay. You're not allowed to kill it and eat it. But if a wind turbine kills it, we're safe. Because we're saving the planet, right? All right, with that in mind, Chris is in Glen Rock. Morning, Chris. He said, you need to add the lightning. I mean, how else are you offer free birds to supposed to offer free birds to customers? Well, the idea, though, is wind turbines do kill a lot of birds. A lot. Just because they're spinning. And birds like to ride, especially soaring birds, they like to ride basically wind vortexes. I'm saying the wrong thing. A vortex is what was created, but thermals is what they like to ride. The wind turbines don't create thermals, they create vortexes, and the vortices will suck the bird in, and by the time the bird realizes it's getting too close to the blade, it's too late. There's nothing they can do about it. But I can still figure out a way to include lightning strikes because it turns out lightning strikes is a main reason that wind turbines get shut down. Yeah, they get fried, basically, or they lose blades, something like that. But that makes sense when you consider how many wind turbines are in a field, and a big open field with things sitting up really high, lightning's going to hit it, of course. Woody in Buford. Wow, there's a second person in Buford. He said, I came by there the other day. There was a decent breeze. He means the wind farms. A few of the turbines were turning. What explains the other 75% not turning? Now, I can answer that. I don't know if anything was down for repair. Usually there's something down for repair. But I can answer part of it. If you take a look at what wind does, it's not a consistent thing. So I go to an area every so often where there's just a lot of flags. It's like an industrial park area where I live. And when I drive in, a lot of people, a lot of different businesses in the industrial park like to put up flags. And that great American flag, Wyoming flag, things like that. It's really interesting to see how flags that are really close to each other don't all blow the same way. Depends on what's going on with the wind. I mean, you can have flags really close to each other doing completely different things. And one could be flapping away really hard, the other not at all. Wind is not a consistent thing. It's always doing very unusual, twisty, turnies, you never know. It changes direction a lot. In fact, it's not at all surprising to see if you're on the ground and there's no wind on the ground, go about just above treetop level and you can have a pretty good wind blowing by. Or if you're getting a breeze on the ground, let's say the breeze is coming from the east, but just above treetop level, it might be coming from a completely different direction. Wind twists and turns and blows in all sorts of different ways. So some of it might be that things are down for repairs. The other part just might be that some of the wind turbines are getting wind and others are not. It's not evenly blowing through the whole area. Woody is in, let me see, that was Woody in Buford. Joel, hey, that's good, Joel. Don't forget splattered bat soup. I might have to add that in. Splattered bat soup. I like that because it sounds good. It sounds funny anyway. Yeah, I'll add that in. Thanks. Red is in Casper. He said, so temperatures base downtime is planned. Wonder why they don't include that planned downtime when they predict the efficiency of wind turbines. And that's always, really always a great point that I like to make when I talked about wind farms. Because they always, when they want to put up a wind farm, they tell everybody what the projected power is going to be. We project we're going to get this much power out of this wind farm. And they never achieve that projection, ever. They overestimate it to get everybody enthusiastic about the project. It's very typical. We're going to put up this wind farm, and it's going to serve 10,000 homes with this much electricity, and they never get anywhere near that. Neither do the solar panels. They overestimate it every time. So, no, they don't include the downtime. See, Chris in Glen Rock, free bird, not free, as in fried chicken. I-80 John, morning, Glenn, will provide firearms to fight off the coyotes who are feasting on the birds. See, this is why I ask you guys when I'm writing something like this. Get some great ideas. I like the bat splattered soup. That's definitely going in there. 642. Here's Don Day.
You asked for an expert. We didn't have the budget for that. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Weekdays 6 to 10 a.m. and 24/7 on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
6:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. So Miss Mary is trying to get hold of Frank Gambino, who's out right now, but he'll be on phone with us today. Frank will give us the latest in sports. In the meantime, while we're waiting on Frank, to those people over in the Guernsey area, I've been watching, and we're all pulling for you out there. There's some fires near Guernsey. And, boy, they're smoky, too. Then also up in the Campbell County. Those people that are east of Guernsey, you're getting a lot of that smoke. Then we head up into the Campbell County area. There's some problems up there, too. And a couple of other things have sparked up around even, and I think it was up on Muddy Mountain. I don't know what happened to that one, but I did see there's these small firefighting airplanes. They're basically, they're the kinds of airplanes that would normally just spray crop dusters, but they make them for firefighting. They just translate them into something that can drop a whole lot of water. And I saw them heading up into the Muddy Mountain area yesterday. So we'll see what happens with that. I didn't hear anything other than when I looked on, there's a smoke and fire map that I go to every single day and take a look at around this time of year. And it was still something that they were dealing with up there, but we'll see. So there's quite a few around Wyoming that are burning right now, but still we are not as bad as some places to the west of us, California again. What was up in Canada burning, there's still stuff burning up there, but it's not as bad as it was before. Now, in the stories I have been including about fires for the past few weeks here, or even more than that, we are into fire season, but nothing unusual is happening. Not a thing. Keep you posted on that. Frank Gambino is where? Where'd you go?
Watching the American Legion A state tournament. It was yesterday was really, really smoky here, bad.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a fire in Wapiti, which is about 50 miles from here, and it was really, really hazy. It looks clear this morning, so hopefully they got that thing under the control, and then we can go on with baseball today.
Real quick, Major League Baseball, Doug Creek has died, age 55.
Don't know him.
Okay. He was an MLB pitcher, and he had retired some time ago, and I just came across this morning. He was with the Cardinals, the Giants, the Cubs, the Rays, the Mariners, the Blue Jays, the Tigers, between 1995 and 2005.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to look him up.
Okay. 55 years old, that's just too young for something like that.
Way too young, yeah. All righty, the American Legion Baseball in Casper. The Double-A tournament continues today. Laramie defeated Rock Springs in a loser-all game 12-9. The Cheyenne Hawks beat Jackson 9-8. The Cheyenne Sixers in the winners bracket defeated Sheridan 19-4. And Gillette over Casper 2-0 in a well-pitched game by the Rough Riders. So today at 1 o'clock, the Cheyenne Hawks will meet Sheridan. And in a loser-all game, Laramie will play Casper at 4 p.m. at Lansing Field in a loser-all game. And in the winners bracket, it'll be the Cheyenne Sixers against Gillette. That will be at 7 p.m. And on the State A tournament here in Powell, the Casper Drillers were eliminated. They lost to Powell 10-0 in 5 innings. Cody over Lovell 4-3. So today at 11 o'clock, Powell will meet Cody for the A championship. If Cody wins at 11, then the two teams will play again at 2 for the winner-take-all match. The Wyoming Cowboy football team starts fall practices today in Laramie. The team returns 16 starters, 4 on the offensive line. They have a new quarterback at Evan Swoboda. He's got a big arm. He's 6'5", 245. He has been placed with a lot of high expectations, so we'll see what he does. However, the Cowboys have to replace some key members on defense, like linebacker Easton Gibbs. They'll open up the season on August the 31st against Arizona State. And that's it in sports for now.
Okay. Is it still smoky out there?
No, it's clear today.
Okay, good.
So,
all right.
and the wind picked up a little bit, but it was
Yeah.
really, I mean, you couldn't see anything.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, you could see the game, obviously,
Right.
but, in terms of all the mountains, Hart Mountain, that kind of stuff, you couldn't see
Right.
much of that at all.
And I was talking about that earlier this morning. There's fires out that way. Campbell County had some. Around the Guernsey area, they had a pretty good one. And wow, that was smoky. So anyone to the east of Guernsey was certainly getting a whole lot of that. So, yeah, a few things. And that's that lightning from those dry thunderstorms that go by. And we're just needing the rain, which we should get the rain next week. So hang in there, Frank.
We could use it today.
Yes, we certainly could. All right, appreciate that, Frank. And I'll keep you guys up to date as the morning goes on about the latest with the fires. But again, it's this fire season. This is what happens. And I do have in some of the stories that I put up this week, just talking about fire trends over the years, which despite what you've heard in a lot of news stories over the past few years, we are not experiencing more fires and more intense fires. We've had some bad years and some mild years. Last year was a pretty mild year. Remember, it was green most of all last year? But yeah, it's just fire season. Nothing unusual is happening here. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
And
7:06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Wednesday, and over the hump we go.
Today's show is sponsored by Junebug Berry Muffins. Are they berries? Are they June bugs? Are they either? Taste it, find out.
You try it and get back with me. Now, real quick, I appreciate everybody helping out here, and I am taking notes on what you guys are saying. Yesterday, I came up with an idea for a chain of restaurants, and I'm writing a satirical bit on this. And in this, a customer goes into one of these restaurants. They're all located under wind farms. They only are up and operational when the wind blows. So if you walked in and the wind stopped blowing, the power would go out, and they can't cook your food. And what they cook it for you is, of course, dead birds. So if you were to go out and kill a golden eagle and eat it, that's an endangered bird. You're in big trouble. But if a wind turbine kills it, as you know, that's okay. So they can go ahead and cook that up. One of the suggestions I got was try their splattered bat soup, because they do kill a lot of bats too. That's good. And then, and I wondered, how are they going to stay open? It's got to be hard to stay open when you can only stay open when the wind turbines are turning, which is not as often as you might think. And then, how do they go ahead and staff the place? Because they don't know when the wind is really going to blow. So it's difficult to know when to ask staff to come in or not. So Joel in Casper says, I also think your new restaurant should be heavily subsidized by taxpayers' dollars to match the wind turbines. I'm going to have to add that, Joel, that's a great idea. Because there's no way they could stay in business if they're only in business when the wind blows. So much like the wind turbines, which there's no way they can stay in business if they're only in making electricity when the wind blows. There's no way. So the restaurant has to be subsidized too. I'm putting all of this together, taking notes, and coming up with a bid on this. We are also keeping track of Guernsey, keeping an eye on you guys because there's some fires out your way. Campbell County around the Gillette area has got some fires, and there's some others around the state as well. It's that really dry season. Don Day's on at 7:45 to talk to us about that. It's just that time of year. So not just smoke coming in from other states and even from Canada at times, but now we've reached a point where the next few days are going to be really dry and really warm. The occasional thunderstorm will build with not a lot of rain in it, and that's going to spark some fires, which it already has. Next week, there's some relief coming with some tropical moisture coming in. That ought to give us a hand with all of this, but that's just that time of year. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to head on over to what happened on MSNBC real quick here. Other people sending me notes. I'll get back to your notes in a few minutes here. This, I think you guys have to hear. A long time ago, I quit watching all of what were television news networks. Fox, CNN, MSNBC, because they quit being news networks. They do a little bit of news occasionally, but mostly they don't. And a lot of times all of them bring on just radical commentators to say radical things because they think that's what gets them ratings. Although in the long run, their ratings are just continuing to go down, 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 down. So it's talk television, essentially. So let's go to MSNBC, the television show Morning Joe, which is on now. And they're talking about Vice Presidential candidate J.D. Vance. I don't know where they got this woman from, but here's what happened.
We begin out west with the Oregonian, which leads with this year's ferocious wildfire season in that state, already far outpacing previous years. According to federal data, Oregon has experienced...
Okay, hang on here. I got to fast forward just a little bit to where this woman comes on. Here we go. My apologies. They're going through the papers.
More and more Americans choosing not to have kids, which again emphasizes why J.D. Vance's comments about childless Americans, childless cat ladies, could be so politically damaging.
Well, so what's interesting is this natalism that comes from an authoritarian playbook, right? That there need to be more white children, right? That's the idea that there's, this is about great replacement theory, racism, right? This is what this is. So don't misunderstand it for him wanting more children. He wants a certain kind of, racist thing. So I would say, it's certainly true. And attacking people for not having children is really cruel, right? Because some people can't have children. Some people, want to have children and, can't, miss the window. So I do think it's really just a very terrible way to go after people.
Okay. So what she's saying here is twisting his words. That what J.D. Vance said about women who have chosen not to have kids and pursue careers and things like this, his comments she's turning into racist, or she's trying to anyway, racist comments, and also just very cruel. All right. This is why, a long time ago, I just turned off all of these networks, all of them, because they get people like this to put on to be as outrageous as they possibly can. And for anyone who tunes in trying to get some news and information out of it, you're really not getting news and information. Instead, you're getting radical people who all they do is say garbage like this, which continues to radicalize their base. And if you wonder, we've had a lot of conversations about this. Why is America so divided? I've seen many articles written by people, both local. In fact, our former Speaker of the House in Wyoming, Tom Lubnow, wrote a very good article. Why are we at each other's throats all the time? And one of the reasons why is stuff like that, which is just nonstop. So people tune into these networks hoping to get some semblance of news. Instead, they get garbage like that, which is why I say if you really want to get informed, turn that off, go somewhere else. And it's not easy to find. Real news is out there. It's just not all that easy to find. All right. Morning, Rianne. Rianne saying, wow, my head hurts now. And I agree. Sister Dear in Lake Wales, wish we could send you some of that North Carolina rain. It's wet here. Yeah, it's the dry season out. Wyoming and the West have two different dry seasons. One of them is right now, which is our fire season. And it's not just Wyoming. It's all, even up to Canada. It's all out west, which is why we get fires every time this time of year. What surprises a lot of other people is when we get into the wintertime, December and January especially, a little bit into February, those are our driest seasons of the entire year. And you think, well, it's wintertime. Snow? Steve and Casper, they will have artificial wind machines to... Oh, that's great. For our wind... I know I'm all over the place, folks. Sorry. For the wind farm parody, the restaurant at the bottom of the wind farm, so it can cook up fresh-killed birds, but it can only cook them when the wind is blowing. Stephen Casper says they will have artificial wind machines to make wind by diesel generators. Mike wants bird tongue stew. Not bad. Inappropriate. Wrong. Which is why I approve. So, okay, I'm putting all of this together in notes, and I don't know if I'll have it done by the end of this week because we have a lot going on. But we have Bear Trap Music Festival, things like that going on. But we'll get that out. I think probably early next week is when I'll finally be able to get that on the air.
Why is that person running? Are you okay? Is somebody chasing you? You're running on purpose? 7 a.m.
Yep, there you have it. A new level of crazy. And you heard it here first. Sure, this show is sustainable. We sequester all gas emissions to one room. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, live on AM 1030 and FM 95.1, weekdays at 6.
7:20 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. On that funny bit that we're writing here, and I am doing it with your help, I-80 John says, this sounds like a Jenkins and the Boss bit, which I haven't written one of those in quite a while. And my friend John, who's up in Gillette, Wyoming, is the voice of Jenkins. I'm the voice of the boss. So, yeah, this whole bit about the restaurant that is located under wind farms in order to get fresh bird kill, which I love this idea, could be a Jenkins and a Boss bit. Now, for those people who don't know what that is, I'll play one for you. I haven't written these in a while, but I really love doing them.
Jenkins!
Yes, sir. Here, sir.
Jenkins, I'm afraid I've got some bad news. It seems that, due to Obamacare, we're going to have to drop our insurance for our employees.
Oh, sir, that's really bad news, especially for older folks like you.
Well, I was thinking, Jenkins, maybe we could handle such doctor visits in-house. Save everybody a lot of money and aggravation.
Sir, I really don't think you want Walter in sales giving the exam he's always wanted to give to Charlotte in accounting.
Well, I'm sure we could post a schedule of names of who can exam who.
Sir, this has lawsuit written all over it.
Well, yes, that's why I called you in here. You see, I trust you, son. And, you see, a man of my age has to get a certain exam every so often.
Sir, I really don't like where this is going.
Oh, not to worry, Jenkins.
Oh, thank God.
This will only take a moment.
Oh, dear God.
I left some gloves on my desk for you. And,
Trust me, sir, I don't even know what I'm looking for up there.
Look, if it makes you feel any better, I'd like to take you out to lunch after.
Sir, I really don't think I want to touch food after this.
Oh, you might have a good point there.
Besides, isn't it customary to buy the dinner first?
So, yeah, that could be Haven't done one of those in a long time. It could be a Jenkins and a Boss Bay. You're absolutely right. I'll definitely consider that as Yeah, I got a lot to consider. You guys are giving me a lot of notes to put in here, and it'll all come together. Don't worry. All right. Let's go back to the Olympics for this next one. Because as I told you, when they were trying to build the Olympic Village, they had to be politically correct and woke and all of that. And, of course, save the planet. So one of the things they were going to do to try to stay green is they weren't going to allow any air conditioning in where the athletes stay, in the village where the athletes stay. They said they designed buildings that instead would stay naturally cool, which prompted athletes from all over the world to show up with their own portable air conditioning units. So there went that idea. Now, athletes are complaining because they've tried to make the menu for these athletes vegan, which never works out.
Tried to amend my carnivorous habits, made it nearly 70 days, losing weight without speed, eating sunflower seeds, drinking lots of carrot juice and soaking over rays. But at night I'd have these wonderful dreams, some kind of sensuous treat, not zucchini, fettuccine, bulgur wheat, but a big warm bun and a huge
Okay, anti-vegans, here we go. Now, he describes what a cheeseburger's like. Lettuce and tomato, fine. Heinz 57, I prefer mustard. French fried potatoes, damn straight. Yeah, okay. So, anyway, that's always just the perfect song to open up a vegan bit. Here's the story. Paris once again surrendering to foreign occupiers. That's a great way to start the story. Olympic organizers were forced to order 4,000 pounds of meat and eggs quickly after athletes described the fake meat and non-dairy options as just horrible. From the beginning, and these are athletes. You know, these athletes need to have a lot of good protein and meat and eggs and things like that in order to keep up at the level that they're at. These athletes, they may be really thin, svelte people, but in order to stay that way, they have to consume a lot, right? Story says, from the beginning, officials sought to make this year's games the most eco-friendly and green Olympics in history. They failed miserably at it, by the way. However, lost somewhere in the social designs, the grand design was the fact that while fake meat is fine in the faculty cafeteria at Harvard University in Oxford, elite human machines that we see at the Olympics need meat. While organizers initially sought to downplay the woke meal plans, impacts assured would be, as you can imagine, negative. There's no way they're going for this. Quote, as far as I'm concerned, we had to make a few changes and we had to adapt, which is quite normal, said the executive in charge of this entire mess. We have 700 kilograms of eggs and a ton of meat, which we've been increasing to bring to the athletes as fast as possible. So, having to rush order about 4,000 pounds of meat and then eggs, and it doesn't say what kinds of meats, but I would expect them to have different kinds of beef in there and then bacon. He continued, we got a full vision in terms of nutrition, which is designed to provide the products necessary, including organic foods, which have adapted to everything into satisfaction for all our concerns here. We have had to discuss with the heads of the delegation, and we've had to put the athletes at the forefront of our concerns. So in other words, you have to tell the heads of the organizations, I'm sorry, this woke nonsense is not going to work. These athletes want meat. So the menu is not the only area where major consensus for the game's eco-friendly planners, just fell apart. Teams were also now being allowed to bring, as I said, their own air conditioning, which originally no, you can't do that. Well, they did. The problem with nutrition and cooling off, now, and think about this for just a bit. You're an athlete, right? And we'll give you some kind of sport that really does take a lot of physical prowess. I mean, you have to be in top physical condition. You're someone who works out all day, every day, in order to get into that condition. Peak performance. That's going to take a lot of food, a lot of nutrition, and it can't be fake. So fake meat isn't going to cut it. When you're done working out, besides needing more nutrition, more meat, and other things like that that's good for you, you're also going to need to cool down. Okay? So to go to some dormitory or whatever arrangement, apartments, whatever arrangement they have set up, and it's naturally cooled. We don't need air conditioners. No, these people need air conditioners blowing on them in order to cool down when you consider what they're doing. Australian swimmer one said the conditions contributed significantly to her inability to set a new world record in the freestyle. She said, it probably wasn't the time I thought I was capable of, but the living in the Olympic Village makes it hard to perform. It's definitely not made for high performance, so it's about who can really keep it together, not just physically, but mentally keep it together. Okay. Coming up on some, well, you see, again, we're going to go green, and it's going to be better for everybody, and flat out rejected for a whole host of reasons. No, this is not the most green, as they say, eco-friendly Olympics ever. It's your basic Olympics. They had to go back to that in order to have an Olympics. Coming up on some local news, after a local news update on the weather forecast, I will have Don Day with us at 7:45. We got to talk about some of the fires out there. Again, Guernsey, up in the Campbell County area too, and some other around the state. It is hot. It is dry out there. Fire hazard is high right about now. It's that time of year. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Day. Glenn Woods. He talks to you, not at you. Be part of the show at 888-97-WOODS. This is Wake Up Wyoming on K2 Radio.
7:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. All right, I've been trying to get to this story. I'm a little late on getting into it, but we have to talk about this. Ladies and gentlemen, your vice president and presidential hopeful has once again, during the course of her time in office, spent a ton of money on stuff that never happened.
So it's 3708, paper or plastic?
Plastic. That's the magic word. What? Green police. You picked the wrong day to mess with the ecosystem, plastic boy.
Battery! Let's go, take the house, come on! Put the rind down. Sir, that's a compost infraction.
Did you install these bulbs?
No. Tragedy strikes tonight where a man has just been arrested for possession of an incandescent light bulb.
What do you guys think about plastic bottles now?
The water setting is at 105.
You got a TDI here?
Clean diesel.
You're good to go, sir.
Good afternoon, officers. Are those foam cups you're drinking from?
Yeah.
Please step out of the car and put them on the hood.
Okay, so here's why. Remember a while back, Kamala Harris said, remember, you like school buses? Who doesn't raise your hand if you love a yellow school bus. Okay, well, this was all a big push to spend a whole bunch of money on electric school buses. The story says just 2 years ago, Harris and the EPA administrator proudly announced $1 billion, capital italicized B, giveaway as part of a total $5 billion for the EPA as part of the infrastructure bill for 389 school districts for 2,463 electric buses. Today, according to the Washington Free Beacon, They built 60 buses, and I think only 8 have been delivered so far. Okay, that's where they are so far on that. Now, also, billions of dollars have been spent to give broadband internet to people all over the country. Billions of dollars have been spent by Harris. She was in charge of that, too. And how much internet did we get out of that? Exactly 0. Nothing has been done about that. Oh, let's not forget the charging stations. Billions of dollars were spent to give us electric charging stations all over the country. And last I looked, 7 have been built, 7 charging stations. Okay, so this is where all of this money goes. And I want to know, where did the money actually go after all of this? What actually happened to the money? Back when, let's go back to the Obama era. In the Obama era, one of the reasons why the Tea Party movement got started was because it actually started with George W. Bush. At the end of his term, we went into a recession, and George W. started to borrow about $1 trillion in hope to jumpstart the economy. When Obama got into office, he finished borrowing that money and then tried to pump it into the economy. And I was saying at the time, we've seen this before. We know exactly what's going to happen here. Most of the money is going to disappear into the ether, never to be heard from again. And nothing's actually going to get accomplished. And that's exactly what happened. Now, sorry for you Trump supporters, but at the beginning of the COVID era, it was Trump who shut down the economy and said to keep businesses around as we go through this. So trillions of dollars were borrowed and pumped toward businesses, and much of it went to fraud, and a lot of it just disappeared. Just flat out disappeared. Then Biden administration comes along, and they outdid Trump by a long shot, way long shot. The amount of money that Biden has borrowed and printed and so on, dear God. I mean, it seriously frightens me how much money. And as all of these trillions of dollars are being pumped into the economy, what have we gotten for all of this? And this is very typical of government trying to get something done. So, again, we spent billions on charging stations, got 7. Spent billions on buses, 60 have been built, very few have been actually delivered. Spent billions of dollars for everybody to get high-speed internet across the country, and nothing has happened with that. The money's gone, but nothing has happened with that. How much money have we spent on wind and solar to get how much out of it? Yeah, which is why as soon as the subsidies run out, and the subsidies will run out, when that, it's not an if or a might or a maybe, when that happens, wind and solar begins to go out of business because it runs on subsidies. All right, I'm going to get Don Day on the line. We've got to talk about not just the dry weather, but it is very crispy out there. I mean, anything, not just a lightning strike, but a cigarette butt or a spark from your truck could start a fire. That's the season we're in right now. We'll talk to Don next. 742, wake up.
The only show broadcasting from a bunker under Devil's Tower. Hey, it's cold down here. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, 6 a.m. weekdays on AM 1030 and FM 95.1.
Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information, visit talktheyhearyou.samhsa.gov.
.45 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Don Day from Day Weather. All right, more on a serious note today, Don. We now have local smoke because of local fires, and I've been watching really closely around Guernsey and Campbell County, to name 2.
Yeah, we also have some fire activity down in Carbon County, west of Saratoga. There's been some fire activity around the Rollins area. And I'm afraid to say the next 5 days are going to be tricky to get through because we are going to have areas of wind, really low humidity. These hot temperatures continue, really no good chances for rain. So it's a critical juncture, kind of where we are in the fire season, before we can start to get rain back into the area this next week.
And let's talk about some of the reasons. Of course, as I've been calling it, dry lightning. I mean, it's a storm out there, but it's not producing a lot of rain. But then there's also, people working, they spark something, maybe the occasional cigarette butt. But then where does that wind come from? Because it would just be a local little event if it wasn't for that wind.
Well, we have a front going across Montana and northern Wyoming, and it started to move into the northern part of the state yesterday. And when storms go north of us, we get windy south of the low. Now, the winds aren't crazy, but that wind combined with the very low humidity is just making things ripe for fire activity. We'd call this a pattern where you can have what we call extreme fire behavior. So the wind is something that's going to be a factor again today. Now, I expect less wind Thursday and Friday. But even then, we're still looking at extremely low humidity. When you look at fire behavior, the wind, the temperature, and the relative humidity are three really big factors. And all three of those are perfect. If you're a fire, okay, you're like, oh, this is perfect.
Yeah. All right. Now, we have to get through the weekend on this, but it looks like next week there's a possibility of some relief.
I'm confident, gaining confidence that what we see coming in next week, and it starts maybe as early as Sunday, where the thunderstorms will be spreading into western Wyoming, that between Monday and Friday of next week, we'll have opportunities for thunderstorms, and they're going to be rain producers. Yes, they'll produce lightning. Yes, that could be a concern, but they should be able to bring up the humidity. That, I think, overall, the biggest story next week is going to be the fact, yes, we've got better rain chances, but relative humidities will go up significantly, and that'll help.
All right. Thank you, Don. Appreciate it. Don Day with Day Weather. So there, I think a good big part of the story there is that humidity coming up is going to help us quite a bit. And temperatures come down, too. So Frank Gambino is out there on location. Frank, it's weird. I promise not to do it in the next break. But so far this morning, I've been talking actual sports with you, and I'm not sure what to do with myself. I got another one.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
They probably have no clue about, but that's
None
okay.
whatsoever, yeah. Building will soon begin, about 2025, in Tampa on a new stadium they hope to have done by 2028.
Finally. And it took forever to get the county and St. Petersburg to agree to go to a different site that's downtown. It's going to be like the historic gas plant district, something down over there.
Yeah.
So they're building, and this is a stadium that's like what Oakland will build, what the Athletics will build in Las Vegas. Not very big, just 30,000 people.
Right.
And you're hoping that, that they would stay. Obviously, this to build a new stadium, you stay, and then all the economic impact of everyone that's around the stadium. Yeah. So the Rays play in a place that's just awful in Tampa, and nobody goes. So, like, if they build something nice, maybe people will go. Yeah. Isn't it amazing how that works?
Well, now, I've told you this before. Oh, by the way, this is going to cost, they estimate about $400 million. You know, it's going to be more than that. But
much more, yeah.
Living in the Tampa Bay area, doing the radio thing, back when they finished the first stadium over in St. Pete. And the idea was to build it in an area that was more impoverished with the thought that would help revitalize the area. And you would get new restaurants and new apartment buildings and all this kind of stuff. All you had was a brand new stadium in a neighborhood that just stayed crappy. I mean, just horrible. It never got any better.
Well, at Tropicana, where it is now, 2 blocks over, it's a big entertainment district.
Yeah.
You know, now they're going to build in another place that's impoverished and going to try to duplicate that again. It takes years. Same thing with Denver, Coors Field. When Lodo, prior to that stadium being built there, Coors Field was like a no man's land.
Right.
And now it's bars, restaurants, hotels, the whole 9 yards. You know, the upfront costs for these stadiums are immense.
Right.
And it's got to be public money, private money. I mean, that's just the way it is, unless some guy's going to build a stadium and he's like a trillionaire.
Right.
And he probably doesn't want to spend all that money on a stadium.
Well,
anyway.
and knowing the Bay Area like I do, what I'm also going to be really interested in is you're talking downtown St. Petersburg, which is a really nice downtown area. But always with downtown areas, there's parking. So good luck with that.
Oh, indeed. In American Legion Baseball, the State AA tournament continues today in Casper at Lansing Field. In yesterday's action, Laramie eliminated Rock Springs 12-9. The Cheyenne Hawks eliminated Jackson 9-8. In the winners bracket, the Cheyenne Sixers a winner over Sheridan 19-4, and the Gillette Rough Riders beat the Casper Oilers 2-0. So, in a loser-out game today at 1 p.m., Sheridan, the Cheyenne Hawks will take on Sheridan, and at 4 p.m. in a loser-out game, Laramie Rangers will meet the Casper Oilers. That'll be at 4 o'clock. And in the winners bracket, the Cheyenne Sixers will take on Gillette at 7 p.m. This tournament will run through the rest of the week. In collegiate baseball, the Casper Spuds beat the Fremont Moo on the road 9-4 in the first game of the Independence League Championship Series. That's a best-of-5 deal. First two games are in Nebraska, and everything after that will be in Casper. So those two teams will meet again tonight in Fremont, with the Spuds leading the series 1-0. Back to American Legion Baseball, the A tournament in Powell, Cody eliminated Lovell 4-3. Powell defeated the Casper Drillers 10-0 in just 5 innings. So today in Powell, Powell and Cody will meet at 11 a.m. Should Cody win that game, then the if necessary game will kick in at 2 p.m. for the All the Marbles game between Powell and Cody for the State A championship. And in college football, the Wyoming Cowboys start fall drills today. Cowboys return 16 starters, 4 on the offensive line alone. They have a new quarterback in Evan Swoboda, so he has extremely high expectations. They have to kind of replace some folks that were really good last year, like linebacker Easton Gibbs. Cowboys will open up the season on August the 31st against Arizona State. At the Paris Olympics, and the U.S. women's gymnastics team won the gold as a team all around, which is pretty much expected. In the 800 in swimming, and the 800 freestyle, Bobby Fink of the U.S. took the silver medal. And the women's U.S. rugby team, the Rugby Sevens, won the bronze medal. That's the first time they've ever medaled in the Olympics. So that's it in sports.
So we have a lady Olympian that I see reported all over the place who's won more gold than any other American Olympian.
Simone Biles
Yes.
from the gymnast. Oh yeah, she's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Imagine where she would be right now. I know she had to take that last Olympics off, but unfortunately because she had a bit of an issue, but. Still, imagine where she'd be now if she had been able to play that Olympics too, and then this one.
Maybe the greatest Olympian of all time for the U.S.
Lord. I'm so glad social media is around because it keeps popping up in my feed, all these different events she's been in, and I always have to stop and watch her because it's just amazing that a human being can do that with their body.
And she's good at everything.
Everything. Oh, yeah. And we haven't seen this one. Name an athlete from a much younger era. You know, we can't. I'm blanking on the names right now, but we had some like back in the '80s.
Oh yeah. Oh, and there used to be a ton, but I don't think they can.
No.
This Simone Biles.
She's off the
best
charts
of them all.
there. All right, thank you, Frank. Let's wake up, Wyoming.
Yeah.
8:06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name's Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. It is a Wednesday, and over the hump we go.
Today's show is sponsored by Junebug Berry Muffins. Are they berries? Are they June bugs? Are they either? Taste it, find out.
I'll let you go ahead and taste it and find out, and then you can tell me all about it. Here's the most dangerous time of this program every day.
Warning. Wake Up Wyoming is about to enter daily open phones. This means that anyone will be allowed to call in and talk about anything. I mean, imagine if we actually allowed you on air to say anything you wanted. Scary, right? Well, we're just that brand of crazy. If you are offended by what other people think, then maybe you want to tune out right about now. Just saying. If you should choose to call, just remember, the more funny and interesting you are, the longer Glenn will keep you on the line. Obnoxious jerks will be hung up on. Dave. All right, strap in and let's do this thing.
888-97 Woods the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Talking about what I'm talking about. Change the subject. That'd be fine. I'll just kind of roll with the whole thing. Before I get into the next story, let's recap real quick for those people just joining us what we've decided so far. Yesterday, I came up with an idea of doing a satirical bit, which, you know, I love writing and performing those here on this program, and I get a lot of help from you guys. The bit would be there's a restaurant chain that's going to open up at the bottom of wind turbine farms. So you go by a wind turbine farm, there's one of the restaurants. Now, what they serve is fresh bird and bat kill. They just wait for one to get whacked out of the sky, and they go ahead and grill it up for you. But they can only grill it up on everything's got to be green and sustainable. So they can only get a fresh bird kill when the wind is blowing, and they can only cook it when the wind is blowing. Because as soon as the wind stops, the whole restaurant goes dark, and they're not going to get any fresh birds, and they're not going to. So what keeps them open? Here are some of the suggestions I got. Subsidies keep them open. Or maybe they have a coal-fired power plant that they're going to build to provide wind for the wind turbines from when the wind's not blowing. So I think I might work all of that in there as well. This is the kind of stuff we're putting together. Bat splat soup was one of the suggestions for some of the things on the menu. See where I'm going with this. So keep your suggestions coming in, because I'm taking all of these suggestions to put the bit together, which I'll eventually write. It's usually myself doing one of the voices and somebody else. We put it together. We play it for you guys. All right, now, I don't just do open phones on Friday like a lot of hosts. I give you some every day of the week. So 888-97-WOODS, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Or do what these other people are doing. They're texting me while I'm on the air. Just hit the chat button on the Wake Up Wyoming app, and the Wake Up Wyoming app is completely free to download. And you can even get this show after I'm off the air. It's available as a podcast, so you can go ahead and listen later. All right, let's go back to the state of Wyoming. According to Cowboys Daily, Governor Gordon's PAC hits high gear with endorsement money for Freedom Caucus opponents. So Gordon is usually at odds with the Freedom Caucus. Story says Mark Gordon is trying to take a stand against out-of-state influences in Wyoming politics. His Prosperity and Commerce Political Action Committee, which is called PAC. See, now that was actually clever. Here's what it's called again. Prosperity and Commerce Political Action Committee, or PAC. If I were him, I would have tried to make it Pac-Man. But okay, PAC works fine. That's kind of catchy. Has come online with a new website, Trust But Verify Wyoming. Now, while I'm talking about this, I'm going to click on the link so I can go ahead and take a look at it. Harkening on former President Ronald Reagan's famous Trust But Verify slogan, Reagan, a conservative darling, displayed prominently on the website in two photos of him displayed on the homepage. So various blanket text messages were sent through Wyoming over the weekend promoting the website. The proposed effort, according to the website, is to fight half-truths and outright lies being brought against Wyoming candidates Gordon is endorsing in the 2024 election. Out-of-state special interests are commonly blamed for spending misinformation, he says, and keep trying to hijack Wyoming's legislator. And PAC accuses these groups of flooding Wyoming with cell phone calls, mailboxes, unprecedented misinformation. And so the Wyoming Freedom Caucus is one of his main targets there. James in Casper wants to talk about the restaurant. Hello, James.
Good morning, sir.
Yes.
One of the options for power for your restaurant, put a diesel-powered generator in the back,
right,
running on biodiesel, with vegetable oil.
Oh, that's great, because if you're going to have a deep fryer, you got to have vegetable oil.
Correct.
So, yeah, okay. So and basically when the power goes out because the wind's not blowing, we run the entire restaurant off of the deep fryer.
The waste oil.
Yes.
You got to change it every now and then.
Yeah, of course you do, yeah. Okay, I'm adding that into the suggestions because that's pretty good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, James. I appreciate it. See, I like these ideas. Okay, one of the suggestions for the bit is, and this is from I-80 John, I kind of like all of these different ideas that are coming in. Let me go back to what I-80 John said. Sounds like a Jenkins and the Boss bit. Now, I haven't done a Jenkins and the Boss in quite a while, but I'm thinking that you're probably right. It does sound like I should write this, because originally I wrote it up as a customer goes into the restaurant and sits down. But as I was writing that, I thought I recently already did something like that. Do you remember the Wiggles Burger restaurant? I didn't want it to sound like Wiggles Burger. This is what Wiggles Burger sounded. And this is another one that you and I wrote together. I asked you guys for suggestions, and you came in just like we just heard there. And we put this together as a group.
Welcome to Wiggle Burgers. Would you like to see a menu?
Sure, but I probably just want a rib burger and some fries. I'm in a hurry and I'm really hungry.
You might like the grasshopper bacon bits or the mealworm arancini. Maybe try some worm salt soup.
But wait, what the heck is the mescal worm salad?
Oh, those little guys are great. We crushed them fresh this morning.
You crushed?
Have to do it while they're still larvae, or there's that horrible crunching sound. Besides, most people don't like exoskeleton in their mouth.
Just what the hell are you saving here?
Sir, Wiggle Burgers is a bug restaurant. We serve only organic, sustainable bug and bug larvae. Gotta keep that carbon footprint down. Save the planet, you know?
Oh, please tell me they brought Candid Camera back.
I don't understand.
Yeah, you're probably too young for that television show. It was on back when a person had to get up and go change the channel.
So you remember when the world was in black and white?
Well, most things were black and white back then. I have no idea what the hell is going on now. Look, I'm in a rush. Just give me a bowl of cereal. That should be safe enough.
Mealworm puffs okay? Do you want nut milk or freshly squeezed cicada larvae?
You don't just have cow's milk, do you?
That's disgusting.
You know, if you keep grossing people out like this, you'll kill everybody's appetite and starve the human race.
Guaranteed population control? That sounds perfect.
To be honest with me, do you really eat this stuff?
Oh, come on now. If you advocate for this stuff, you don't actually have to do it.
Oh, but the rest of us better, or else.
Damn straight.
So the idea, which I think I.D. John might be onto something, I'm considering this, writing it as a Jenkins and the Boss bit is perhaps, it's somebody starting Jenkins and the Boss. The Boss is trying to start a restaurant chain, and he's kicking around ideas. Mike is in Casper. Hello, Mike.
Yeah, how about hamster wheels?
Oh, that'd be great. And then, if that's not working out, you can always eat the hamsters.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. We can keep the hamsters going. I do like the idea, though, of, okay, so yeah, you can run a diesel engine off of the old grease from the fry machine. So basically, when the wind turbines are not providing electricity to run the turbines, which kills the birds, which is what everybody's eating, and keeps the restaurant going with electricity, then we go ahead and start the diesel engine, which runs off of the fry machines, the grease from the fry machines. Charlie in Laramie says, how about shredded tweet for breakfast? Like shredded wheat, right? Okay, so for those who are not familiar with Jenkins and the Boss, this goes way back. I haven't written one in quite a while, but I was writing Jenkins and the Boss for many years. So a friend of mine up in Gillette, who's a doctor, is the voice of Jenkins, who is the boss's right-hand man. I do the voice of the boss. And those bits sound like this.
Sir, I was just in the bathroom, man.
Jenkins, I've decided to take this workplace paperless.
Paperless, sir?
Yes, I think we're behind the times on this.
Well, yes, sir, but...
We're going green. Got to save the planet, you know.
Yes, sir.
And besides, with today's technology, using paper just slows everything down.
Yes, sir, but...
Why spend money on ink and paper, expensive copy machines, and when everything can be done with the click of a mouse?
Yes, sir, but
But what, Jenkins?
Sir, there's no toilet paper in the bathroom.
Right. Well, don't worry. There's an app for that.
An app, sir?
Oh, come on now, Jenkins. Get with the times. An app for your phone. See? Just touch the toilet paper app on my phone and...
On your phone, sir? But...
Well, you certainly can't use your iPad. I mean, that's a little big, don't you think? Especially, not so big for Mural down in accounting. Have you seen her big keister?
No, sir. I try not to look at her.
I can't use your laptop. laptop with the flip screen, that's just too big and awkward. And forget the desktop tower. Can't go dragging that down the hall now, can you?
No, sir. No, sir.
So the iPhone it has to
Sir,
be.
I'm not so sure I want to use.
Of course, for a little bud like yours, Jenkins, better get a Razor phone.
Right. Well, sir, if you'll excuse me, I need to go back to the bathroom and finish what I started.
You do that. Oh, and Jenkins.
Yes, sir?
While you're heading that way, find out who's been picking leaves off of the plant down there. There's only 2 left.
2 left. That should just about do it.
Do what, Jenkins?
Not important, sir. I'll get right on it.
This public service announcement is just a reminder that going green has consequences.
So you see, there's a possibility that we write the bit using Jenkins and the boss. That's a good idea, John.
Woke Radio, WOKE, the shortwave radio station that identifies as 1,000-watt FM. Because, we are what we feel, not we feel what we are.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join the conversation at 888-97-WOODS.
8:23 is the time. Wake Up Wyoming. Great calls today, guys. And thanks for all the text messages, too, that you sent me over the Wake Up Wyoming app. This stuff is really helpful. And it is going into the pile of ideas to write the bit. Because you've helped me before. I've come up with an idea on air, or one of you have even. And then I just start asking folks, well, what do you think? What would you add to that? And you send in great ideas. And so what I do is I write it all down. And as I'm writing the script, I start referring to those ideas. And it becomes part of the bit. So it'll probably be done next week. We have a lot going on. Bear Trap Music Festival is this weekend. So we'll be doing a lot of work around here. But when we get done with that, I'll have a chance to go ahead and actually record a thing. In the meantime, though, I can still spend some time writing it. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. For those who missed the first hour of the program, we got to do this. Growing up in Florida, as I did, I saw a lot of retired people who were very nice people. When they first retired and moved into the neighborhood, they were very nice people. But because they retired and weren't doing anything with their lives, they really quickly became grumpy old people. Really grumpy. And it was very typical to see some old guy yelling at the neighborhood kids, "Get off my lawn!" Here in Wyoming, a story of an old guy from Green River who pulled a gun on what he called a dumbass teen on his yard. He's now in jail. He could face some time in prison because of this. Cowboy State Daily story. A Green River man is facing up to 10 years in prison on claims that he pointed a loaded 9mm pistol at a teen who had parked a dirt bike on his grass in front of his home. This is a case of, get off my lawn. Boyle Kettle, 70, was charged Monday with aggravated assault in Sweetwater County. Kettle, who is not in jail at the time, declined to comment. So I said he was in jail. He's not at the time. Court documents say Green River Police Department approached by 2 white juvenile males in the police department parking lot about 8:30 on Saturday evening, and evidently they filed the case. One of the youths, whom the court documents identified just as DF, told police he and his friend rode their dirt bikes from Rock Springs to Green River on a county road. Their bikes ran out of gas, so they stopped at a local Exxon to get fuel. After getting fuel, they coasted their dirt bikes without the engines running down sidewalks, which is a good strategy. The officer came and talked to the teens and telling them not to have their dirt bikes on the sidewalk. While talking with the officer, one of the youths stopped his dirt bike on the sidewalk in front of a home. So later, an old man stepped out on the porch and approached one of the youths identified in the story and his parked dirt bike and pointed a black handgun, says the affidavit. And basically, get off my lawn. Mom said call the police. He gave an account. The young man gave an account of the incident and said he stopped his dirt bike on the sidewalk. Man stepped down on the front porch, started yelling at him. So when he talked to Mom about it, Mom said, call the police. They have video of it. Everybody has video of it. Yeah, because everybody has cell phones today. By the way, pet peeve of mine, when the young man says he has video of this, he did not film it. take a look at your cell phone and you tell me where you insert the film. Okay, so you're not using film anymore. That's a digital device. Pet peeve of mine. I know I'm getting picky. No, you don't have videotape either. You can't put a videotape cassette in there. Doesn't work that way. It's a digital device. But anyway, that's one of those cases. The old guy, if he was upset that someone was standing on his lawn with a dirt bike, could have just walked out and said, hey, could you not stand on my lawn, please? And I bet you the young man would have said, oh, sorry, and moved off the lawn. But this is what happens, and just take my advice, folks, when you retire, make sure you have something to do with your life. Yesterday, I interviewed just a delightful old gentleman who's in his mid-70s, and he's running for county commissioner. And he's involved heavily in his community. I mean, heavily. He just can't seem to stop, which is what keeps his mind going and his body going. He's in his 70s and full of energy, great sense of humor, easy to talk to, because he decided to keep busy. You don't have to get involved in politics, but do something with your life. Because if you don't, you end up being one of these guys who steps out, hey, get off my lawn. And nobody likes the old guy or the cat lady, for that matter, in the neighborhood. Nobody likes these people. They just get old and grumpy because they have nothing better to do, and they don't tend to last very long either. So find something to do with your life. Don't be the grumpy old man. A true Wyoming case of get off my lawn. But in Wyoming, that comes down to, and the guy had a gun. Probably would have been that way in Florida. Guy probably would have gone after the kid with a rake or something like that, or his weed eater. But anyway. All right, coming up on some local news we got to talk about, and then after that, update on your weather forecast. A nice long segment of open phones. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97 WOODS. Let's Wake Up Wyoming.
Sunday.
He's not a politician, but his pants are on fire. Could someone grab an extinguisher? Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
8:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. All right, 888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97 WOODS. What I'm going to do is there's several news stories here that I think we can just go through real fast, just to get you up to speed on what's been happening with these local news stories. So from Wildfire, lawmakers pump brakes on fast-track mining after the gravel pit dust-up. That's what was happening in the Casper and Natrona County area. In fact, I was asked to and did host one of the town halls on that because they wanted someone who could go in and just be a moderator and not be opinionated, which I did. I didn't take sides. I just helped moderate the thing. A lot was said. I don't think anything was settled on this. But, okay, here's the latest. Testimony from Casper area residents who opposed the controversial Prism Logistics gravel pit helped convince legislative panel on Tuesday to temporarily set aside a draft bill they say would only exacerbate conflicts between mining and nearby communities. Minerals Business and Economic Development Committee Chairman agreed with calls from the panel members to set aside a draft bill. Limited Mining Operations Amendments is the bill, for further consideration when committees meet later in the year. So the draft is intended to revive a past measure that, among other things, would expand regulatory exemption for non-coal mines smaller than 15 acres to include any non-coal material not under the authority of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. That's there's a lot to do on this. It's going to be a while, but that's where they are right now. No idea if that bill will go anywhere. But this is what they're starting with right now on this. And at least you can say your legislators have heard you on this. They're trying to do something. Dave in Casper about the restaurant. Hello, Dave.
How are you, sir?
Good, sir. What you got?
Well, I kind of got to be a Debbie Downer on this restaurant with windmills.
Yeah.
I've been in business for a long time, and I know how the government works.
Uh-huh.
So, you're going to have permits for collecting birds, for anything that you pick up. And depending on the bird, they're going to tax you at different tax rates.
Oh, yeah,
and
that's
then,
true, yeah.
You got to think during hunting season, if a duck or a goose flies through there, you could probably get a hunting license for it. But they could also say, well, you're poaching it, and then you'd be in trouble there.
Here's where I think, here's where I think that we have an opportunity to do something. You see, let's take, for example, a golden eagle. If you went out, Dave, right now and saw a golden eagle and you picked up your gun and you shot it and then you grilled it up, you're in big trouble. That's a protected species. You're not allowed to do that. But if a golden eagle is killed by a wind turbine, starting with the Obama administration, they started giving passes to allow wind turbines to do that, even though it's a protected animal. So what I'm doing is, since it's already protected and wind turbines are allowed to kill, even ducks flying over. I mean, if it's killed by a wind turbine, that's okay because a wind turbine did it. So why not take advantage of it and just clean it up and cook it right there, especially because they're cooking it on energy that comes from the wind turbines?
Well, that's only if the wind is
if the wind is blowing, yeah.
Not blowing too hard.
Right. Now, we're trying to come up with what to do when the wind is not blowing, because if the wind is not blowing, not only are they not collecting birds, but they don't have any energy to run the restaurant. One suggestion was set up an old-style diesel engine that runs off of the grease from the fry machine in the kitchen.
Right. That'd be great.
Yeah.
But I'm still really concerned about all this.
Okay.
Regulations. God forbid that a sage grouse would fly through there.
Yeah.
Because they're on the endangered.
Now, once again, here's the difference, Dave. If a sage grouse is killed, and you know this to be true, if a sage grouse is killed near an oil or a gas well, that company is in big trouble. But if a sage grouse is killed because of a wind turbine, that's okay. That is current law right now.
Yeah, but they'll change the law so they can get more money. I mean, not the regulatory nation.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but I think as long as they declare the restaurant, you have to use these words in when they're filling out the paperwork, that the restaurant is green and sustainable, immediately it gets a pass.
Well, and you probably have a good point there.
Yes, and carbon neutral, too. It's green, sustainable, and carbon neutral. Therefore, they can do whatever they want. Don't worry about it.
Well, it's really not carbon neutral if you're killing the birds.
Well, of course not. None of this is green. None of this is sustainable. None of this is carbon neutral. But because they said that it was, they get government subsidies to kill birds.
There you go.
I think I'm on to something.
Onto a good idea.
I might be on it. All right. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it. See, we're thinking this out. I'm using what's actually happening in the news. And I'll say I'll be careful with this one. Smokey in Casper. And that's a good name right about now, Smokey, because of all the smoke. Let's see. Just skip down. A sailor was walking down a street, Salt Lake City, with a bag on his shoulder with something visibly flopping around inside. A police officer saw it, stopped the sailor. I'm really worried about where this is going. I'm going to keep reading this, but I'm going to have to read ahead because I'm really worried about where Smokey is going with this. Okay. City police officer saw and stopped the sailor and asked what was in the bag. Sailor replied, "A seagull." The cop immediately arrested the sailor, as seagulls are the Utah state bird, and put him in the bag in his car headed for the station. On the drive, the cop asked the sailor what he was going to do with the bird. The sailor said he was going to cook it, said he had done it many times before. After a little while, the cop asked the sailor what it tasted like. The sailor replied, "It tastes like a cross between bald eagle and spotted owl." Oh, yeah, that was actually pretty good, Smokey. I appreciate that. Let me see. Hey, you in Marbleton, sounds like he doesn't get the joke. I think by the time I got done with him, he did understand the joke. Chet Yoder says, "So buy a duck stamp, dude. Well, I think here's what the point is with a lot of what we're doing with the whole wind turbine restaurant thing. What I was just saying is absolutely true. If you went out right now and found a protected bird, an endangered protected bird, and you killed it, and you cooked it and ate it, you are in big trouble. If a oil or gas well, if they find a dead sage grouse near it, doesn't matter if the oil or gas well had anything to do with it or not, they're in big trouble. But wind farms and solar farms can kill all sorts of birds, protected or not, and that's okay. In fact, they will get subsidized, and all they have to do is say they're green and sustainable and carbon-free, none of which is true, by the way. But all they have to do is say that they're trying to save the planet, and they'll get subsidized to do it. Not exactly fair, is it? But that's what's happening right now, which is what gave me the idea for the restaurant, because I think sometimes the best way to make a point is through satire, which is why I like writing this with you guys, because we come up with all of these great ideas to make a point in a funny way. Today, there's so much just nasty rhetoric and yelling and screaming out there. Oftentimes, the best way to really get through to people is to make them laugh and make a point at the same time, which is one of the reasons why the best movies that ever came out from Monty Python, for example, made great points, but they did it in a satirical way, and people just ate it up. 8:45, wake up.
Wake up, Wyoming. Glenn Woods is live on AM 1030 K2 Radio and the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
8:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Frank Gambino, who's out there on location. Okay, Frank, first off, Mary Lou Retton is who I was trying to think of last hour.
Yes, and I was thinking of the same thing, too. Yeah. Mary Lou Retton, yeah.
And who, by the way, I will freely admit, because we're about the same age as she is, I was crushing on back then. She was just adorable. But she was, I think, one of the best gymnasts of her time. And I do think she's being outclassed today, though, and that's saying a lot.
Yeah, I think Mary Lou Retton, she's had some health issues lately.
I think she has, yeah.
But at the time, I mean, she was the star of the Olympics.
Yeah, and just a darling. You couldn't resist that big smile. I mean, absolutely no way. Okay, now, I have a list of words for you, things that you have said to people when you wanted to cuss them out, but you weren't going to cuss, and you haven't used these words since you were back in the 1980s. Ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Get bent.
Never said that.
You've never said that to someone?
No,
wow.
I'd rather just swear at him.
Okay. You have said scram, make like a tree and leave. You ever use that one? It was completely misquoted in several movies intentionally. That was the joke.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. Never did that one. Just stuff it. Have you told someone to stuff it?
No.
Never? Put a lid on it.
I would just prefer to swear at him.
You just swear at him. Okay. Well, okay. So Frank just prefers to. You never just told someone to put a lid on it?
No.
Never have. Have you ever just said, bless your heart? That's a very Southern thing.
Well, I think I have a couple of times in a sarcastic
In the South, that's one of the biggest insults that there is.
Oh, bless you.
Yes, it is. It really is. Okay. Heavens to Betsy.
Well, no.
Okay.
That's something from my grandmother.
Ever call someone a party pooper?
No, I just swear at him.
Oh, okay. So I think what we're getting at here, folks, is Frank does not have any alternative swear words. He just swears at you.
Well, no, I do have alternative swear words. I can swear at him in Italian.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're ever speaking some kind of gibberish I don't understand, I can just assume you're swearing at me?
Pretty much.
Okay, that works.
All right, American Legion Baseball, the state AA tournament continues this afternoon at Lansing Field in Casper. There will be 3 games today. The Cheyenne Hawks will take on the Sheridan Troopers in a loser-out game at 1 p.m. Laramie Rangers will meet the Casper Royals at 4 in another loser-out game. In the winner's bracket, the Cheyenne Post 6 The defending state champions will take on the Gillette Rough Riders at 7. Yesterday's action, Laramie eliminated Rock Springs 12-9. The Cheyenne Hawks eliminated Jackson 9-8. The Cheyenne Sixers defeated Sheridan 19-4, and the Gillette Rough Riders over the Casper Oilers 2-0. That tournament continues for the rest of the week. The State A Legion tournament here in Powell continues today. Now, yesterday, Cody over Lovell 4-3, and so Lovell was eliminated, and Powell eliminated the Casper Drillers 10-0 in a game that lasted just 5 innings. So today at 11 this morning, Powell will take on Cody. If Powell wins that game, then they will be the state champions again. If they lose that first game, then the two teams will play again for the All the Marbles game, and that will begin at 2. So one game for sure at 11, possibly a second at 2 p.m. In the collegiate baseball, the Casper Spuds in the Independence League, they're in the championship series, and they beat the Fremont Moo on the road 9-4 yesterday. So the Spuds lead the best of 5 series, 1 game to none. Those two teams will play again tonight in Nebraska. Wyoming Cowboy football team hitting the practice field today for the first time in the fall. They've returned 16 starters, 4 starters on the offensive line. They have a new quarterback in Evan Swoboda, so the expectations are high. However, most media folks feel that they're going to win 6 games. That's kind of low, don't you think? Maybe they should win more than that. They're going to have to replace some folks, but with new head coach Jay Sawvell, you're going to see probably certainly a different offensive look than you've seen in the past. We'll see how that all pans out. Cowboys will open up the season August the 31st on the road at Arizona State. In the Olympics, the U.S. women's gymnastics team won the gold medal in the all-around, which is pretty much expected. They won that handily. In swimming in the 800 freestyle, Bobby Fink of the University of Florida won the silver medal. And in women's rugby, the U.S. Rugby Sevens took the bronze medal. So congratulations to them, and everything continues along today in Paris and tonight. It's in sports.
Okay. Now let's see. We're done with the gymnastics. Are we done with gymnastics? Or are you still doing that?
Oh no! Now they do the individuals.
Okay.
Then
I do know that they're still having problems with some of the. What's the one with the swimming they can't do because the river's a mess?
Oh, that's like the triathlon, yeah. Nobody wants to really go in there.
No, the river's basically still a toilet after all of these centuries, is what they're saying.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. All right. Thank you, Frank. Yeah, so once again, France, that's supposed to be so green, but you can't swim in that river because, by God, they've tested it and never really did clean it up. All right, coming up on some local business we have to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National local update on the weather forecast. You and I get back into it again. It's Wake Up Wyoming. 9:06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. All right, phones are still open, so 888-97-WOODS. That's 888-97-WOODS.
Today's show is sponsored by Junebug Berry Muffins. Are they berries? Are they June bugs? Are they either? Taste it, find out.
And once again, you go right ahead and get back with me on that.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
Okay, I'm doing a little bit more house cleaning here, but you can interrupt me at any time and change the subject. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. I talked about this first hour this morning, 6 a.m., but already a couple of people who weren't there with me on the first hour got with me, usually in the Wake Up Wyoming app, and asking, is this story real? And the answer is no. Here's the story. There is a satirical website, and as you know, I love satire. I do it myself. It's mostly on social media. They call themselves Casper Planet. If you're reading a story and you're thinking, really? Check to see if it's Casper Planet. One of the best ones I think they ever did was convince people that Devil's Tower was actually a giant prehistoric tree stump. Kind of looks like one, doesn't it? And underneath, geologists had found the root system, which goes really deep, as you can imagine. Complete garbage, but that's Casper Planet for you. Okay, so they did a satirical story that said on I-25, there was a semi-truck filled with snakes, very dangerous snakes. And it got into a wreck, and now there's the interstate is closed because there's snakes all over the place. Now, because of that, people saw the article and actually started calling the Highway Patrol. The Highway Patrol said, no, I-25 is open. There's not snakes all over the place. They even posted something about that. Casper Planet, in their own satirical way, answered and let everybody know that it was just satire. You're not supposed to take that seriously. They did a follow-up story called Casper in Wyoming declares victory over imaginary king cobras on I-25. So for those people who were contacting me this morning, and several did, was that a true story? No, it's not. When you read a story and you're kind of thinking that's a little wow out there, and check to see, is it Onion News? Is it Casper Planet? That's another one. Okay, Babylon Bee. And there's several other places that are satirical websites. Now, when I write satirical stories for the Wake Up Wyoming page, which I often do, I usually put at the very top, when you click on the story to read it, don't just read the headline. You got to go deeper. Click on the story to read it, and the first line usually is, this is satire. And sometimes that doesn't even work because some people just read the headline and they go from there. They don't look at the whole story. So, no, there were never a bunch of snakes all over the interstate. The interstate was never closed because of king cobras. That was just satire. All right. Which, again, I love. Now, I do like the fact that Babylon Bee, even though they do satirical humor, there's sometimes you read a story and you think, hold on, is this satire or is this real? Because it's so bizarre. There's no way it can be real. And yet, it's real. So Babylon Bee put up a second website, which I look at every single day. They call it Not the Bee. It's when the story looks like it's satire, but it's not. That's what goes on Not the Bee. And there's a lot of that. So I can understand completely how anybody could get confused by the snake story. Because there's so much weird garbage going on out there. Is that real? Honestly, that happened? Yes, it did. All right. Next one. And this is not satire. A Cowboy State Daily Store. Homes less than $1 million in Jackson don't really exist anymore. Story says homes under $1 million are practically non-existent in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, according to the market. That's even the latest Jackson Hole real estate report from a group that shows $2 million to $3 million segment for Jackson Hole is really pretty much stagnant right now and about as low as you're going to get. I mean, that's slumming it. If you buy a home in Jackson, Wyoming for $3 million, you're on the other side of the tracks. You're slumming it. Quote, buyers aren't coming up to that, is what we're seeing. But I don't think that sellers are going to lower their prices enough to be less than $1 million anytime soon. Sales have dropped 6% overall, according to a group's second quarter report, even though overall inventory has risen 5%. Residential vacation lots are down 25%, but single home inventories are up by more than 15%, as townhomes and condos are up 14%. And people can afford, who live in Jackson Hole, to wait the market out. If somebody bought a home for multi-millions of dollars, they're not going to sell it at a loss. These people are rich because, well, Rich people are often rich for a reason. It's behavior. They know how to make money and they know what to do with it when they got it. That's what makes a rich person rich. Oh, here's Micah in Cheyenne. Wind Farm restaurant skit could be a family vacation to see the Wild West and coming up on the restaurant. Yeah? Yeah, and then trying to figure out what to order on the... Imagine what the kids' menu would be like. All right, so the story here says, normally rising inventory would put a significant downward pressure on prices, but this is Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and it is not normal real estate market. It's the epicenter of Teton County, the wealthiest in the nation. Not only that, it's also leading the nation in outdoor recreation and economic boom. By the way, remember when that road between Jackson and Idaho, that main road, where a lot of workers, I've met a few, I was on a river rafting thing there in Jackson, and our guide, who worked in Jackson, went to Idaho to live because he couldn't afford to live in Jackson. So many workers go back and forth, restaurant workers, retail workers, they live over the border. And that road was a very important highway, Teton Pass, right? So when a section of that collapsed, remember the news headlines at the time? This is going to devastate the tourist market. It did not. It was a minor inconvenience because people had to drive a long way, and there was even buses for them that were provided, but people had to travel a long way back and forth. It was an inconvenience. That's all it was. It might do irreparable harm. Catastrophic. Catastrophic was used by a few news organizations. Catastrophic harm. It didn't do catastrophic anything. All it did was slow down traffic a little bit, and now everything is just fine. So in this story here, when it talks about the outdoor recreation economic boom that they're having in Jackson, they're still having it despite the fact that transportation was interrupted for a while. That, to me, once again, on a side note here, gives you the idea of what the news media does with a story. Yes, part of a road collapsed. No, it was not due to climate change, as Wyoming public media try to convince you. No, it did not do irreparable harm. No, it was not catastrophic to anybody. Everything was fine. All right. Getting back to the real estate thing. Out of 234 listed properties in Jackson, just 21% have lowered prices in 2024. Despite 38% of all properties being on the market for more than a year. So once again, these are people who have the money to wait out the market. They'll wait. All right. Now, at some point, I don't know that Jackson will ever get down to prices that we see around the rest of Wyoming. I think that is long gone. But at some point, that market has to settle down a bit. It has to. It can't keep going at that pace forever, despite all the money that's there. Okay, so something will change. And this is where I've often said, if you want to see a change like that, do not get your government to step in and try to fix the market. They'll make it worse. Let the market do what it does. Okay? You and I can barely afford to visit there, much less live there. But think about all of the revenue that all of those rich people living over there bring us. As long as they don't vote California style, I'm okay with them.
The North American Karen, a wild beast that's dangerous alone but deadly in numbers. When gathered together, they form what is known as a homeowners association. This HOA peruses the gated community on the hunt for a vulnerable manager. But today, their vulnerability will be exposed. A Tyrannus homeboy sapien, the Karens, freeze and huddle together in fear. Their phones on video mode, at the ready to call for help from their closest friend of the jungle, the security officeurus. But the harmless Tyrannus goes about his business, paying little attention to the Karens. But it's too late. The Karens have already been frightened. They turn and make their escape. Rarely do the Karens find themselves on the receiving end of fear. But today, they are reminded that the world is not their home. They trot home to their husbandus flaccidus to complain that their neighborhood is going to hell.
He's talking to himself in a padded room, and you could be the voice in his head. Join the conversation on Wake Up Wyoming, 866-97-WOODS.
9:23 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. So, okay. I really shouldn't pick this up as a top, but I'm going to. All right. Household labor study designed is biased against men. No, okay, actually, this is not too bad. Just the women are going to hate this. Hey, guys, this is between you and me. The women are going to hate this. So, guys, turn it up. Women, go do something else for a while. Which means because I just said that, the women are now turning it up, going, what the hell are you going to talk about? A recent paper that claims to find women face greater burdens than men when it comes to household chores is flawed in its design. The division of household labor is an important but often overlooked driver of global gender inequality. Oh, God. The archives of women's mental health papers suggest women carry disproportionate burden of domestic tasks, and this burden may be linked with their health and well-being. Easy now. The lead authors are psychology grad students. Oh, God, a psychology grad student, Elizabeth is her name, and a professor, Darby, both University of South Carolina, wrote a summary of their research. So you can understand, though, since they're graduates here, and ladies, that this story may be a little biased. But okay, let's read on. But the scholars designed the study in such a way, intentionally or not, as the biased results to make it seem like women do a disproportionate amount of work around the house. First, they only ask women to self-report how much time they spent on different tasks, and then estimate how much time their husbands spent. To their credit, the researchers suggest that future studies should have more data for the men. Second, and this is actually the biggest flaw, they selected chores that are more geared toward women's tendencies. There are certain jobs that women tend to go for and certain jobs that men tend to go for. That's who we are. Overall, mothers reported greater responsibility than their partners. For their cognitive labor, 29 out of 30 tasks in the physical household. The scholars wrote, taking out the garbage was the only task for which partners were responsible for both partners for physical labor. And home maintenance was the only other task for which partners were responsible for more physical. But why is home maintenance only one task? The researchers, the story says, get to 30 tasks by mixing up specific tasks and general tasks. For example, bathing and grooming, helping with homework, morning routines. 3 separate tasks, but there's also one called supervising kids. Supervising kids, in other words, herding cats. It seems like those other 3 tasks fall under supervising kids. Okay, they drew the task from a game called Fair Play, which features few male-oriented tasks. The idea of the card game was to get couples to talk about different responsibilities in and out of the home, such as taking care of the kids, managing finances. In and of itself, not a bad idea. It is good for couples to talk about what to do around the house. The designer of the game says what's fair is not always what's equal, and what's equal is not always what's fair. The goal is not necessarily to get a perfect 50-50 split. Well, and I would say it shouldn't be, because sometimes a task is, one person may be doing more work than the other person, but the person who has fewer jobs, the jobs are more difficult. All right. But few of the responsibilities on the cards are tasks that men typically would be expected to perform, even those that were largely omitted by researchers, such as home renovation, lawn, plants, outdoor stuff like that. By using the card game, researchers omit male-oriented tasks, including cutting the grass, emptying the dehumidifier, cleaning the gutters, changing light bulbs, fixing shingles, picking up branches, weeding, changing the oil in the car, or doing any other maintenance to the car, for that matter. These tasks are not done every day, but they are, to varying degrees, more physically demanding. Other interesting data points out, according to the self-reported data, most sports are done primarily by the mom. In other words, taking your kids to sports and so on. But more sports chores usually are men volunteers. Only 26% of youth sports head coaches in 2022 were female. So you see, the women may be taking the guy out, or the kids out to a sporting event. When you get to the sporting event, it's usually the guys who are running the sporting event or teaching the kid how to play the sport in the first place. You see what I mean? But to me, though, the whole thing is really more about, once again, here's research that purports something, but when you take a look at how the research was done, it was flawed. Coming up on 9:30, local news, coming your way after local news, update on the weather forecast. You and I get back into it again. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. Wake Up Wyoming.
Sunday.
You asked for an expert. We didn't have the budget for that. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Weekdays 6 to 10 a.m. and 24/7 on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
36 the time. Wake Up Wyoming. All right. I'm going to continue on this subject just a bit because Rhiannon Fort Danger made a pretty good point. So if you're just joining me, what I was doing was I was reading the story. It's a, and I'll put it in quotes, study that was done by some graduate students, a couple of ladies, that showed that in a household, men tend to have fewer jobs than women, and that's not fair. Well, but hang on. What about when the jobs that a man has are far more demanding than the women? So if we were to switch, some of you ladies might say, you know, I'll go back to my 4 easier jobs and you can keep your 1 harder job. In other words, to me, it's not about the men and the women thing. It's more about, here's a study that, once again, doesn't take everything into account. And there's so many studies on so many different topics that don't take everything into account that they can. And so the studies are flawed. And that's why I'm constantly on this program picking on another study shows, and the study is garbage, right? All right, so Rhiannon writes, I call BS, and she's defending the men. Men go out, work their keisters off, worry about the safety of their family. They worry if they will even have a job every day. And she says, I am tired of victimizing mentality. I am sick of feminists. Okay. And that's a lady speaking. I'm sorry, Rhiannon, I called you a lady. That's like when someone looks at me and says, you gentlemen, me, don't do that. All right. So with that in mind, I think that's a very interesting point to make, because it's not always a matter of, well, I have 5 jobs, so you have to have 5 jobs. Well, you have 5 easier jobs compared to my 1 really difficult job. How about that? So what about the death gap? When it comes to work, men tend to take jobs where they get injured more and they die more. Let's even that out.
Everyone's heard about the gender wage gap, but there's another gap between men and women that's even larger and potentially more troubling. It's called the gender occupational fatality gap. 93% of workplace fatalities are men. The so-called most dangerous professions, logging, fishing, toxic waste cleanup, all dominated by men. Some might say that the gender death gap exists because women are less interested in high-risk jobs. But is that really the case? Or are those jobs high risk because all these clumsy men keep dying? Would female roofers die at a staggering rate of 600 plus a year? Or are women better equipped to fight the urge to toss around a hammer because they miss playing quarterback in high school? Perhaps a lady trucker on the road would mean fewer accidents. Perhaps Siegfried and Roy would still be in business if they weren't 2 German guys, but instead a duo of nurturing cat ladies from Wisconsin. I'm sorry, but it seems like everything men touch becomes high risk. roofers, steel workers. These men are dying to preserve the patriarchy. They need our help. It's time for women to enter the so-called dangerous professions and save the day. Mine shafts are filled with nothing but men. Accident-prone, neglectful men who die on the job like it's their job. But it's an easy fix. Let's get some ladies down there who will actually listen to the canary in the coal mine instead of trying to eat it like some barbarian. The success of Wonder Woman should serve as an inspiration, specifically for more women to fight crime and to do crime. Both sides underrepresented. Plus, with more women entering male-dominated fields, opportunities will open up for men to try once female-dominated lower-risk jobs. Guys, ever thought about customer service or childcare or office work? Just try not to electrocute yourself photocopying your butthole. Women have put in a lot of work to make these jobs low risk. Now it's time for us to do the same for the deadliest ones. Let's show men that we can do exactly what they do, but also die far less. I'll start. Today is my last day as an actress. And my first night shift as a truck stop gas station attendant on a deserted stretch of highway. This job feels safer already. Woo! Are you ready to join me, ladies? What dangerous job do you think more women should get in?
Okay, so you get the basic idea there. Sometimes it's... and that goes into the myth of the gender wage gap as well, which you've heard so many times repeated over and over and over again. This goes, to me, more of a flawed study issue. So the flawed study issue is the way they came up with the men get paid more than women is they just looked across America and took a look at what men typically get paid and women typically get paid. And men get paid a little bit more than women, typically cross country. They didn't take into account what kinds of jobs women tend to take and what kinds of jobs men tend to take. And when they take a look at that, and also the hours men want to work, the fact that a man is trying to work up the ladder of whatever business he's in, and he'll do whatever it takes. He'll work nights and weekends. He'll work when he's sick. It doesn't matter. He'll just keep going. Holidays, he'll keep working. It doesn't matter. He'll just keep pushing. And that's where he gets to where he is. Okay, because of that. And there are women who want to do that, but there's not as many women, which is why you tend to find men making more than women. If men and women both take the same job at the same time, they get paid typically the same amount of money. So the wage gap thing is also a myth, too. And again, to me, it's not about a men and women issue like some might think I'm talking about. It's more like a flawed study issue, which we see a lot of. Many flawed studies out there because not all of the data is looked at. They take a look at a few things, draw a conclusion based on that, and it turns out the study is garbage. But that doesn't matter. The news media have something controversial to talk about. Therefore, they'll talk about it because it's controversial. And when the truth that the study was garbage comes out, well, nothing is done about it. News media does not go back and correct the fact that they published yet another flawed study. Coming up on 9:43, Wake Up.
Where Wyoming comes to talk. This is Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Be part of the show at 888-97-WOODS.
9:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Frank Gambino. Frank, every so often on my computer here, because I have some news feeds that will pop up in a little window off to the side, and it tells me what's happening in the Olympics right now.
Okay.
Cycling.
Right now.
Right now. Cycling, BMX freestyle. So dirt bikes.
BMX.
Yeah. Now, I thought about that, and I thought, okay, now I have seen some of these guys, and this is like saying snowboarding in the wintertime. The first time they said snowboarding, I thought, why would you snow? Then I watched those guys, and I thought, oh, no. They're going up the side. You know, you see that U-shaped thing they carve out, and these guys are going up the side, and they flip and spin.
The half pipe, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's the half pipe, yeah. So this is the same thing, but it's with BMX bikes.
That takes a lot of energy
oh, my
to
Lord.
do that.
Yeah. So these are some sports that I can get behind and say, okay, that's a legitimate sport. There are others that we've talked about in the past where I go, really? You're using that as an Olympic sport. I don't see how that's a sport, but this is, But now let's go back to what would you consider an Olympic sport? Because originally the Olympics, every single sport they did was all about military stuff, like the javelin throw,
Yes.
or things like that. It was all what military guys did, wrestling, stuff like that.
Yes.
And it's like going to the rodeo. Everything you see in a rodeo is what they do on the ranch for a living. They're just competing at it. So that's why I look at some Olympic sports and I think, I don't know, would that really qualify as an Olympic sport? But BMX, when you see what these guys can do, dear Lord, I'm thinking that's athletics.
So here's what the Olympics have done, is they got to appeal to all age groups.
Yeah.
And that's why some of these events have come in, like breakdancing and
yeah.
BMX and snowboarding and snowcross and, all these things. You have to, the athletes are young. Okay,
yes.
They're in their 20s. What are they doing?
Okay,
and stuff like that.
So, in other words, they're trying to appeal to a demographic.
Yes.
Okay. See, I can kind of see that. So, if that's the case, Frank, can we get rid of underwater ballet?
I've never understood that, Glenn. To be honest with you, I really never have.
Yeah.
I'm sure it takes a lot of effort, but I'm not sure it's. But here's my thing about sports. It's that you have to have universal rules and universal judging, and you have to compete multiple times, not just, okay, we're here, like dancing. No, it needs to be across the long haul. Now, synchronized swimming, I've never understood it.
I've always had a guess with synchronized swimming, and I'm probably wrong. My guess is, remember the Carmen Miranda films?
Yeah.
Okay. I always thought, is it because those were popular at the time? I don't know. I'm guessing.
There you go. That's a good guess. American Legion Baseball, the state AA tournament moving along today at Lansing Field in Casper. In yesterday's action, Laramie beat Rock Springs 12-9, so Rock Springs was eliminated. The Cheyenne Hawks, a winner over Jackson 9-8, and Jackson was eliminated. In the winners bracket, the Cheyenne Sixers, the defending champions, defeated Sheridan 19-4, and Gillette shut out Casper Oilers 2-0. Today, the Cheyenne Hawks against Sheridan at 1 p.m. in a loser-out game. Laramie and Casper in another loser-out game at 4 p.m. And the Cheyenne Sixers will take on Gillette at 7 p.m. in the winners bracket, and the tournament will run through Friday. In the State A tournament up here in Powell, Wyoming, Cody over Lovell yesterday 4-3, and Powell defeated the Casper Drillers 10-0 in 5 innings. So today at 11 in the morning, Powell will take on Cody, and if Powell wins that game, they will be the A Legion champions. If Cody wins that game at 11, both teams will play again at each other at 2 p.m. and a winner-take-all kind of a deal. So that'll be today over here here in Powell. Now, in this collegiate baseball, the Casper Spuds, a win over the Fremont Moo 9-4 in the first game of the Best of 5 Championship Series in the Independence League. Those two teams will play again tonight in Fremont, Nebraska. In college football, the Wyoming Cowboys, they start fall drills today. Folks do return 16 starters, 4 on the offensive line. They have a new quarterback at Evan Swoboda. They have to replace a linebacker in Easton Gibbs. So it's a fluid thing, but the Cowboys certainly have enough returners to be respectable, maybe even more than that, even though most folks in the media world think they're going to only win 6 games. They will start the season August the 31st at Arizona State. And at the Olympics, the women's gymnastics team won the all-around gold medal, so that's they were favored to do so, and that's exactly what they did. In swimming, in the 800 freestyle, Bobby Fink, who's out of the University of Florida, took the silver medal in that event. And in the rugby sevens, the U.S. women's team took the bronze medal. And that's it in sports.
Someone made a really good point when it came to the Olympics. Like, let's say swimming. When these guys finish gold, silver, bronze, they're usually a microsecond away from each other. So let's throw...
hundreds of a second.
Oh, yeah.
Thousands of a second.
So let's throw in an average swimmer with these Olympic athletes so we get some idea about exactly how fast these guys really are. Because they will finish 3 laps before I finish my first.
Easily, if not more.
Yes. Yeah. So that's probably not a bad idea. We're going to take Steve and just push him in the pool. Steve, he's got a little bit of a beer gut, but he's still wearing Speedos. And we'll see how he does against these Olympic athletes. That way we get a sense of scale.
Yeah, Steve will be going one direction. Everyone else
Yes.
will be going the other
That's
direction.
right. Thank you, Frank. It's Wake Up Wyoming.